This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on initiatives taken by state governments for providing livelihood to migrant labourers under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. The participants are Shishir Sinha, economic analyst, and Ruchika Chitravanshi, journalist.
As the COVID crisis has loomed and the country went into a lockdown, one of the biggest challenges was the loss of livelihood for the migrant labour population who struggled to get back home. The government has now identified districts where employment for migrant workers can be created. Yesterday, we saw the launch of the Atmanirbhar Rozgar Yojana in Uttar Pradesh, and as well as there has been a Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan as well, which has got an allocation of 50,000 crore, which is going to generate employment for migrant workers. Shishir, how do you think these schemes are going to help, and what do you think migrant workers can expect now in terms of gaining livelihood at their own homes and villages?
We need to go into the Supreme Court order on migrant labour where some numbers have been given. And if you see the numbers for Uttar Pradesh, around 25 lakh migrant workers returned. For Bihar, the number was 28 lakhs. For Madhya Pradesh, number was 14 lakh, and for Rajasthan, it was 13.60 lakh. So it is something around 80 lakh plus in just 4 states. When we talked about Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan, that was launched in 6 states. So out of those 6 states, just 4 states have more than 80 lakh migrant workers. So it is very necessary at this moment to provide some kind of livelihood at their home place or at their domicile place. And I think this is one scheme which is going to provide or which is going to help in this regard. When we are talking about Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan Yojana, you rightly mentioned about 50,000 crore allocation and 116 districts in 6 states. The most important thing is that it is covering 25 kinds of work. That means according to the skill of each migrant worker that can be deployed in a particular kind of work. And those work start from constructing a building in a rural area to providing some kind of internet connectivity. So 25 kind of works are covering all kind of work areas. And that is very, very important when we are talking about providing jobs to the migrant worker. So first, placing people. Second, skill mapping. And finally, providing a job. I think this is the main purpose of Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan.
We see a lot of similarities with NREGA, for instance, the kind of works that have been listed. Do you think both the schemes are going to work parallelly and can they utilize each other?
If you can remember when NREGA was launched way back in 2007-2008, the main criticism of that program was that it is not providing any kind of infrastructure. 2014, when Narendra Modi government came into power, so they said that we need to revamp, and then the asset creation thing was added to MNREGA. So when we are talking about asset creation, it is mainly related with asset creation in rural area like building construction, school construction. In some, even some railway project has also been incorporated into MNREGA. When we talk about MNREGA, they have limited number of, but when we talk about Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan, there are more work areas covered. So that is the basic difference. MNREGA is mainly for unskilled labor, and when we are talking about Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan Yojana, it is covering skill as well as the unskilled.
Well, the National Livelihood Rural Mission also talks about skilling. Will this particular scheme also talk about skilling migrant workers? There must be a lot of skill sets they already have since they were working in factories and cities, etc. What should be done in that area?
See, National Rural Livelihood Mission, and there are a number of other programs also which are operational in rural areas, and they have some kind of similarity with Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan Yojana in terms of providing jobs to various people. This time the focus is mainly on the migrant people, because if you see the number, when we are talking about more than 1 crore people coming back to various states, and they need people, and if you see the district selected for Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan, they cover district with 25,000, at least 25,000 migrants to more than 1.52 lakh migrants. So I think now the focus is mainly on the migrant labor, and earlier the focus was mainly on the people who are living there to provide some kind of livelihood to them. And this time when people are coming back to villages, when people are coming back to their home place, what kind of livelihood can be provided? This is the difference between existing scheme and the new scheme which we are discussing.
And how will migrant workers be able to avail of this scheme? Like they will have to prove that they have migrated from a city and they have come back home. How are they going to get this opportunity?
When people were coming back from big cities to villages and smaller towns, all of them were registered, especially in Uttar Pradesh, I can tell you. In Uttar Pradesh, there was a registration desk for all the people who came back, and registration include all the information, not just from where he or she is coming, but also what kind of a skill he or she possesses. And accordingly, on the basis of that, a kind of first the skill mapping was done, and at the same time, what kind of requirement of various industries were there. Like in Uttar Pradesh or say in Bihar, some kind of construction activities were going on, and they were looking for people who are good in construction activities. So they approached the district administration that how we can get those laborers. And you must have read or you must have written also about the stories how these migrant people who are living in quarantine also providing some kind of work to the place where they are living. Like one set of people repainted the entire school. Another set of people repainted number of buildings in that locality. These kind of things happening, and on the basis of data sets with the district administration about the people or the migrant laborers who have some kind of skill, and the industry or the MSME, if they need those particular set of people, they can contact the district administration and they can get that.
During COVID, how easy or difficult will it be to execute this plan?
At this moment, when we are seeing more caseload, not just in big cities, but also in tier 2 cities and in some section of rural areas, it is not very easy to contact people and call them for work. So it is a difficult task, it is a challenging task. But when we are talking about providing work with social distancing and all kind of health measures which an industrial unit can take, which an MSME unit can take, I think this is the only way out. Otherwise, just call them or employing them or providing them some kind of job is not easy. But providing a kind of environment and preparing a kind of environment where these people can work with all kind of precaution, that is the solution. I think many of the districts are also doing on that. Many of the smaller industries are also doing that. Of course, their cost of production have gone up, their cost of operation has gone up, but I think this is the only solution which is possible at this moment.
Shishir, I'm curious to know, there have been people who are saying that this migrant population, if they are able to get work at their own villages, will they come back to the cities? Do you think that this is a temporary phenomena, or maybe if they have opportunities where they live, why should they leave homes and come back?
There are two aspects to that. The first, when we are talking about whether they will stay back or whether a reverse migration is going to be the permanent kind of thing. I think in some cases it may be true, but that has a very, very, very limited scope, because the problem is once the infrastructure has been built, constructed, like a school building has been constructed. So what about the work in that particular area? There is no other work. So what will happen to the people who have been provided job under that particular scheme or initiative? So in that situation, people will go back to the cities. And if you just take what Indian Railway has released figure of reservation for next 12 or 15 days, many of the trains who are coming from Uttar Pradesh or Bihar or even from Madhya Pradesh and going to Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, they have a full booking for that. So that shows that people are also going back, and we should not forget the kind of income is also very important. The level of salary is also very, very important. When you are working in a city like Mumbai, or when you are working in a city like Ahmedabad or in Surat, you are earning some, say, 15,000 or 20,000. The same when you are working at your home place, you may not earn more like that. But of course, there are some other comforts which you will get at your home place, and that can be compensated by a lower salary. But still, if we are just seeing the trend of the people going back to cities, I think that the staying back at the home place, I think will be very, very limited or in selective areas.
So Shishir, what is the total timeline for this whole campaign, this scheme?
See, the government has decided to keep a timeline of 125 days for this campaign. And this particular timeline has been conceptualized with a rationale that after, say, 3 months or 4 months, there will be kind of re-migration, means people are just coming back to the cities for jobs in various industrial units and various other facilities. This is also considered with a logic say that there will be, after development of certain rural infrastructure like building of a school or any other construction of Panchayat Bhavan, that will within that time period. And after that, they will, some of them or most of them will go back to big cities. And that is why the timeline of 125 days for the scheme has been finalized.
And this 125 days can be extended also or something like that?
I think initially the target is 125 days. And I believe that after, say, 3 months or 4 months, most of the laborers will try to go back to cities and other places, as we are seeing some kind of remigration. More people are going back to cities like Mumbai or Ahmedabad or Surat to get a job. The problem is that when you are earning something around, say, 15,000 to 20,000 rupees in a big city, when you are going back to village or a smaller town and you are earning something like 5,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees, there will be certain issues. Of course, the comfort of home will compensate some amount of the shortfall, but still there will always be an aspiration to earn more, and that is why I believe the initial target is to keep it for 125 days. After that, there may be rethinking to how to take it forward.
So far, we've seen 6 states, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Orissa and Jharkhand, which have been counted to avail of this scheme. Do you see a possibility of other states as well getting roped in? And why is it a good idea or not a good idea, according to you, to get other states as well into this scheme?
When you are talking about migrant labor, they are mainly from these 6 states. And when I was discussing about Supreme Court order, I found that 4 states have specifically been mentioned in that, and no other state was mentioned about that. So I think the first focus of this scheme is to concentrate on those areas where we have maximum number of migrant people who have come back. In the next phase, we may think after say year or so, if some other states are also showing some kind of, but I don't think we have the same kind of problem in other states. Like in Maharashtra or in Gujarat, you won't find the people or the labor from Maharashtra is moving to some other state. There may be limited number of people moving from Maharashtra or moving from Gujarat or moving from Tamil Nadu or Telangana or Andhra Pradesh. But if you compare with these 6 states, the maximum number of migrant laborers are from these 6 states. And we always say that eastern states are facing problem because the job opportunities are very, very limited in these 6 states. West Bengal is another state where we have seen from West Bengal, number of people have migrated to various other states, but the number is smaller than 6 states. So I believe that during the next phase of this particular scheme, we may see inclusion of West Bengal and Chhattisgarh along with these 6 states, because the number of migrant people are also very high from these 2 states.
And the total amount that has been allocated, 50,000 crore, the entire amount is being divided between states and centre. How is it going to work?
I think this is a scheme where the 100% is not provided by the center. It is a kind of center state which we call as the centrally sponsored scheme, where some kind of proportion is also provided by state government, because it is not just the responsibility of the central government to provide every kind of facility. It is also a responsibility of the state government as well as the local administration to provide some kind of support. I think it is a kind of a centrally sponsored scheme where there will be some share by the state government and majority share, because when we talk about the centrally sponsored scheme, a majority shares are by the central government and a lesser shares of the state government.
How the whole asset creation focus was brought into NREGA, and one of the things that they have managed to do is the geographical tagging of all the assets that are created under the scheme, to bring that sort of transparency. Do you think something like that should be done with this scheme as well?
When you talk about accountability, when you talk about the outcome of each rupee spent, you need to have a kind of tagging. You need to have some kind of outcome mechanism. And when we are talking about geographical tagging under MNREGA for asset creation, the same should be followed under Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan, because it is nothing but the taxpayers' money. And whatever money is being spent on various schemes, we should know that people of the country has a right to know that whether that money has been spent in proper manner or not. And it will also provide some kind of image building for the central government and the state government that they have done work, and this is the proof that what kind of work has been done.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You are listening to a discussion on initiatives taken by state governments for providing livelihood to migrant labourers under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. The participants were Shishir Sinha, economic analyst, and Ruchika Chitravanshi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. The program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.